What's good in the hood? I'm here to do a quick little breakdown of the welterweight division. I wanted to take a note on this because, as you can see from my title, that I'm gonna go on limb and say Sean Brady. He's getting screwed over. This is a man that arguably should have already been fighting for the title. And I'm gonna pull up some stats right now. We have so here's the welterweight breakdown. And part of the reason I'm also going into this a little more depth is because usually, the lightweight, the featherweight, those are the divisions that have always been the hottest. I think I would say in UFC historically. Welterweight's always up there, but at times it might kind of be top heavy. But what's interesting is that this is one of the few times where in the course of 2 weeks, two events, we are seeing like five or six of the top contenders fighting, all to prove if they will have a chance to fight for the belt next. I mean, so obviously 322 has the champ Jack Della Maddalena, sorry my man, JDM. So he's obviously fighting Islam, who's for some reason still listed in lightweight, but he will be moved over soon. So we have the champ versus. We can argue Islam is now the number one contender just based off his pound for pound status. Then on top of that, in the same card, we have Sean Brady number two versus Michael Morales number eight. That's a pretty good matchup for Sean. He is only has one loss in the UFC against the number one contender Bilal. So for him to get another win, I believe that would be his. Go over to Tapology. Yeah, I mean, so he has one loss to Bilal, TKO. Not a good look to get TKO by Bilal, who has essentially no finishes that I can think of off the top of my head. But since then, he's beaten Kelvin Gastelum, Gilbert Burns. We have a little grappling match there, and Leon Edwards. So you have, former title challenger in Kelvin and finished him. Gilbert Burns, another former title challenger. He got 5 rounds over him. And then Leon Edwards, first man to submit him, former champ. So on paper, and he already had 5 or 6 wins prior to that. So I believe he's around like 8-1 in the UFC. So on paper, Sean probably should have already gotten the title shot. He got screwed over, I would say, and rightly so when Islam decided to move up and go for double belt status. So that was always a given. But even then, he's getting handled. Michael Morales, who's number eight. Like I was saying, also on the card we have Leon Edwards, number four, a former champ, versus Carlos Pratas, number nine. So you already have, including the champ now, five, and if you include Islam, six of some of the top welterweights fighting. And then next week on the fight night in Qatar, I believe, you have Ian Machato Gary, good old dual last name, number six right here. Whoopsies, highlighter. You have number six versus number one Bilal. Big step up and big opportunity for Ian. And obviously, the dark horse, the looming one, is Mr. Kamaru Usman, number five, former champ, former, you could argue, number one, number two GOAT for the welterweight division. But back to my point originally, Sean is getting screwed over. Why is that, you ask? Well, first off, he probably already should have gotten the title shot if it wasn't for Islam. And then second off, as I was saying before, he's got some stiff competition. The first one that, could steal that shot from Mr. Carlos. Why, you might ask? Okay, Carlos, he did lose to Ian Machado Gary, I want to say maybe 5, 6 months ago. He got back on track with, a Beyblade level. If you've ever played Beyblades, that was what he fucking hit Jeff Neal with. Terrible knockout. Poor Jeff Neal, always kind of hovering to get into that top five. Very good fighter, but he got hit with the kitchen sink with that elbow. It was very, very. I'm a fan of Jeff Neal. It was painful to see, but Carlos Pratas, he's been stepping up really good position. Sean Brady, obviously tough matchup. Michael Morales and Sean Brady, he's a grappler by heart. You're not going to see any flashy TKOs, KOs. I mean, he can get submissions and they're impressive. But at the end of the day, this is the UFC and they appreciate knockouts, highlight reel finishes. And Carlos, he just got one of, there was a few spinning elbows this year so far, but Carlos might have the best one And he's primed with fighting Leon, who he's on a 2-fight losing streak. Some are questioning if he's past his prime, if he still has that dog in him. And on top of that, he's a striker by heart. He's a kickboxer, so Carlos is very much set up. And while he is fighting before Sean Brady on the card this weekend, Sean Brady's in this position where unless he gets a absolutely dominant, finish of Michael Morales, which with 3 rounds, Michael Morales is a stocky man, very dangerous on the feet. It's very likely Sean will just get a 29, 20, 28, 30, 27 decision, which it'll be impressive nonetheless, but it won't be that like jaw dropping, especially in Madison Square Garden moment where oh boy. Whereas Carlos, if he gets the knockout, he's already probably established himself on the totem pole is higher than Sean. Moving on, you have Ian Machado, Gary, the future. Kind of crazy how young he is, 1997. Yeah, I mean he's a young man, but he also is in the same position. He's only had 1 loss. It was Shavkat. It was a close fight, very boring fight, but regardless, he's only had 1 loss on his record. He's had a bunch of wins, some impressive, some not so much. Cough, cough, Neil Magny. He also has a win over Carlos Pratas, which will age very well if Carlos continues his winning streak this weekend. But the reality is, Ian, he's got the #1 contender. He's got Bilal. Bilal obviously coming off a fight of the night, fight of the year contender against JDM. He's got the #1 contender. So for better or worse, the rankings at this point, Dana, the rankings really don't matter, but they do. They do depending on how you want to push a contender. And if you beat the #1, you generally are going to move up to close, if not the #1 ranking. Ian's already at 6, so it's not unfathomable to believe that he can move up to around top 3 minimum, but he might get 2 or 1. And if he can do something impressive against Bilal, who, for the most part, Bilal, he's been pretty consistent. I mean, he had obviously, he got beat up pretty badly against JDM, but before that, he beat up Leon pretty well. He beat up Gilbert Burns, Stephen Wonderboy. He might be the epitome of the most boring fighter you can watch, but the reality is he's a tough son of a gun. So if Ian can beat him, and it's only a week after this event, so for Sean, it's terrible because even if he does have a good performance, he's doing against #8. Sure, Michael's undefeated. He's a prospect. He's dangerous, but Bilal, he's already been the champ. He's the #1 contender. So Ian is in a prime position to steal those headlines over there in Qatar next week. But frankly, the dark horse and the one that probably will get the title shot, Kamaru Usman, and this is partially due to the fact that Islam has already indicated that his first defense he would like to have is against Kamaru Usman. And it always comes down to, at least for those boys over in Dagestan, legacy. Legacy, legacy, legacy. And why do you say legacy? Well, obviously, Kamaru Usman, even though he has this recent skid, right? He's lost to Leon twice. He lost to Hamzat, short notice, might you add. And he took time off. He did come back. He did get an impressive win after almost 2 years off. He came back. He beat Mr. Buckley, and I believe Buckley is ranked #7. So it was a pretty good win. And he won, I think, 4 out of the 5 rounds. Definitely looked a little timid at first, but overall his takedown, his top control, his boxing, everything was fairly on point, and it makes you think, all right, he still got it. And credibility wise, he was, I believe, 15 wins. He was 1 away from tying Anderson Silva's undefeated streak. So definitely in that GOAT status. And his record has not been hugely tarnished. I mean, the KO obviously was bad, but he was on track to win that. The second Leon fight was close. He lost it, but you could argue Styles makes fights, and maybe Leon was always going to be someone that could cause problems. I didn't think it was the case, but Leon somehow pulled it off in that second one, well, third one technically. And then obviously Hamzat. In some ways, that actually made Usman look even better. Just the fact that he moved up on short notice. He went, traveled a great distance, was definitely undersized, and still got a 29-28. You could argue even a draw, depending on how you score the first round. Regardless, he is the most popular fighter. He's got probably the most following. I mean, if we're going, I mean, Islam obviously now will have the most following, but Kamaru Usman's definitely, he's definitely the biggest name in the division. And let's be real, Islam and Kamaru have the same manager, that bald MF motherfucker. Pardon my French, but good old Ali Abdallah Sleaze. I think that's how you pronounce it. But yeah, they have the same manager, so you know how that goes. Same manager. Dana likes both of them, so it's a no-brainer to put that as one of the headliners for one of these new Paramount. Well, they don't have pay-per-views anymore, but they still have to. For lack of better words, they're still gonna probably put on some major monthly events, and that one honestly could fit the White House no less. So that's probably the most likely outcome, assuming Islam wins and wins in a position where JDM does not get the automatic rematch. Like if it's one of those like Volkanovski, fights where it's super close, 3-2, and some people could argue JDM wins. Most people argue Islam wins, but Islam was hurt, this and that. JDM might be in due for a rematch, even if the fact is that he obviously doesn't have like a win streak or anything. It's his first title defense. Normally you wouldn't give that, but if it's entertaining, then they might consider it. But yeah, if Islam wins, even though Sean, I would argue, might impose with his grappling and jiu-jitsu the toughest challenge of all the names I mentioned for Islam, and even for JDM. The reality is he's not the most exciting. He might be the most deserving, and obviously the biggest asterisk is the fact that Bilal is ahead of him on the rankings, and he lost to him, which is painful, and he lost to him by finish, which is even more painful. He's not gonna get that rematch anytime soon. And maybe he does. Maybe he doesn't get the title shot, and that's the last name he has to go through, which would be a real pain for him. He would really be screwed if he have to fight Bilal twice to get the title shot. But if JDM wins, that's where things get interesting because I think JDM isn't gonna necessarily handpick Kamaru Usman, and outside of his name and recognition and just history in the division, Kamaru Usman's number 5, and he's only fought once in like 2 years, and it was against Buckley, who was on a nice win streak, I believe 5 or 6 wins. The reality is Buckley on paper shouldn't be enough for Usman after losing a couple fights. To go get an automatic title shot. So if JDM wins, and if he wins in enough way that he can put the big bear, the big Russian bear as Islam off his back and move on to progressing his title reign, you could probably put Sean as his number one contender. And it's funny because if you go listen to the presser they had this week, it's always asked when you have all these contenders. They always want to ask, who's the number one? Is this going to be another one to contenders fight? And they did. Dana said, and it was short, probably just because he wanted to just move on and go back to gambling or whatever he likes to do with the Nelk boys and this and that. He did say Sean Brady versus Michael Morales is the number one contenders fight. I find that hard to believe. Morales, yes, he's like 6-0, 7-0 in the UFC, undefeated, young, undefeated outside the UFC too, no less. He's number 8, and I just don't think he's popular enough and compelling enough to give the title shot unless it was just a case where no one else was available. JDM's like, I want to fight at this date or wherever it is. Australia, give me Australia, and that's the only guy available that's willing to take that 23-hour commute. That's the only time I expect Morales to get it, unless Morales were to, and it's possible, get like a crazy KO, and everyone else that I mentioned doesn't really do much. Usman's obviously waiting out, then he could get it. But he's not going to probably get that. Sean, like I said, is on track, I think, to get it across JDM, depending on injuries and all that. The only biggest asterisk in Carlos, he could steal it if he were to get like another spinning elbow. If he gets another Beyblade finish 2 in a row, unheard of. I think UFC history, no one's ever. There's very few that have gotten it more than once, let alone back to back. I don't think it's ever been done back to back. So yeah, that would be probably the only way Carlos gets it. But he definitely has the presence because it's on the big card and it's on the same card as Sean, no less. But I don't think he's gonna get it. I think Ian is the dark horse for JDM. I think Ian, if he can beat Bilal in a more convincing manner than JDM did, and that means on paper he looks better than how Sean did. I think Ian can get it mainly because Ian is more popular than Morales, Sean, and probably even Carlos Pratas. He probably has just from his nation and whatnot, and just the fact that he's very polarizing. He has his country behind him, but he also plays the heel so well, and a lot of people just want to see him lose. And while he did lose against Shavkat, it wasn't the loss people were hoping to kind of shut him up. And if anything, it made him yap more. He tends to flex the fact that he was one of the few. He was the only one to go the distance with Shavkat, which is a feather in his cap, assuming Shavkat comes back and continues to demolish the division. Cough cough. He is arguably now that he's, I believe, healed up. Shavkat is. Let's go look at him to wrap this up. Shavkat's probably the dark horse in all of this. 19 wins, 0 losses. 18 finishes, so crazy high finish rate. Obviously, his resume, it's good. It's definitely in need of one more probably marquee name, especially because he has competed. And it's going to be a year in the next month, and I don't think he's going to probably compete until probably early first quarter next year, especially on one of the Paramount cards. Good way to introduce him. He's definitely popular. I believe he has 1 million plus on his Instagram. But yeah, that Ian fight, it wasn't good. It definitely hurt his credibility, and then the fact that he hasn't been competitive since. He's gonna need one more, maybe someone like Usman. If Islam doesn't win, him versus Usman would be a really good, decide who's gonna be the next one up after, second up, we'll say. But yeah, poor Sean, great guy, very honest, and I think I feel the worst for him because go listen to any of his interviews. I mean, he did it multiple times this week in various interviews. He's the definition of a fighter's fighter. I mean, he does not wait for no one, and maybe it's because he needs the money. I don't. I mean, he definitely has sponsors, and he did say he got a new contract, so he's definitely making. I would imagine 120 minimum. Who knows? Maybe a little more per fight. And I mean, I know he has a new kid and all that, so there's definitely expenses there. But at the end of the day, he always says like, I'm not here to wait for no one. Like he wanted the Ian fight, and it made sense. Ian was probably the bigger name to fight for him, and probably it's a safer fight than Michael Morales, but he didn't get it, for one reason or another. Instead of waiting until the next year to maybe try to get like Usman or something, or get the Blal rematch, or even get the title shot, he said, "F it, I'm gonna be fighting these guys anyway." Like you look at the rankings, he recognizes, and that's why I have so much respect for him. He recognizes like I'll probably get a rematch with Blal because he's superb and isn't going anywhere. I'll probably eventually fight Shavkat because he's undefeated. I've already beaten Leon, but he was expected to fight Leon. Kamaru was lurking, so I'll probably maybe down the road do a defense shot against him for the fact that he gets the legacy shot. Ian, he knows, is even though he has that one loss, is still lurking. He recognizes, and especially Morales, even though he's only at 8, he recognizes all these guys, especially the younger ones. They're going to be around for a while, and there's no point in avoiding the fight because you're going to fight them one way or another. So you might as well just get it out of the way earlier and just go, kick their ass, smoke them, and move on. And I love that. No one, almost no one outside of the name that sticks in my head the most that would say that is someone like Marab, where Marab knows that Sandhagen might not be the most deserving, but he's always lurking in that top 5. So he's just like, just give him to me. Like I'm ready to fight. Umar doesn't need a rematch right now. Peter doesn't need the rematch right now, or he's not healthy, and I want to fight, and he's a top contender, and I've never fought him, and just give him to me so I can go smoke him and move on. You gotta love those fighters, even if their style isn't always the best, and both of them are more in that grapple heavy decision style. But at the end of the day, you gotta love those kind of fighters. So yeah, thanks for listening. It was just my rant because I'm so excited for this weekend, and also for the fact that it's awesome when you get to see one division just have so many marquee fights back to back to back, and you get to just see how that division is going to play out. And I'll try to make a video depending on how the results go in the next, this weekend, and then obviously Qatar. So maybe I'll wait till after Qatar, but it's going to be very interesting to see who gets finished, who doesn't, who looks good, who doesn't. If there's any controversies, cough, cough, eye pokes, cough, cough, nut shots, cough, cough, bad stoppages. Oh, Herb Dean. But yeah, it'll be very interesting to see how that goes. And obviously, the biggest one being at the top, which is if Islam wins, he's staying at welterweight. If he loses, he might not stay at welterweight. He might retire. Who knows what's going to happen if Islam loses? Does he really want to fight one of these young bucks to get back into that title shot, or does he scurry back to lightweight and fight Ilya? Who knows? But let's wait and see. Hope everyone enjoys the card this weekend. Like, subscribe, leave a comment. Give me some ideas for videos next week. Thank you.